welcome to the fourth module of our UI UX design course. I'm so happy to be taking you on this journey, and I hope you've learned a lot from our module 1 to our module 3. It's very interesting to note that we are moving on to the practical stage of this course, and you have to pay close attention to everything that is going to be taught, and that means watching your video all over again. So today we're going to be talking about wireframing and prototyping, and we are going to be introducing ourselves to tools that we'll use throughout the rest of this course. Introduction to Figma. Now you might be asking, what is Figma? Figma is a tool that is cloud-based that is mostly used by UI UX designers. Now there are other tools such as Adobe XD, InDesign, Protopie, and Sketch for MacBook users. But for the sake of this class and due to industry standard, we'll be using Figma. And without wasting much of our time, let's open our Figma interface. So if you're opening Figma for the first time, this is their homepage, and it's simply figma.com. So Figma is a cloud-based software, which means it works on the cloud. You don't have to always save. They also have a software you can install on your PC. So you can choose to install a software, or you could just go to figma.com and use Figma. If it's your first time using Figma, you're going to come to their home screen, and then you're going to log in, which is at the top right. But because I'm logged in, it's showing logout. Now, once you log into your Figma, the first thing you want to see is a board like this. Now, mine has been customized to be dark mode. Yours might be white. So on Figma, once you open, you'll be able to see new design file, new FigJam file, and import file. What this means is, on the new design file, it means you want to create a design or a prototype. On FigJam, it's a whiteboard and diagram tool. So on Figma, you have a tool called FigJam that you can use to do diagrams, whiteboard marking, or sketches. On the imports area, let's say someone does a design on Figma and decide to save it on their laptop. They could send that design for you, and you can open it on your Figma on your own laptop. But for the sake of this class, we'll be doing design and prototype. We are going to talk about FigJam later on, but for now, let's dive in. So clicking on new design file, you're going to come across this board. We call it our Figma board. It has limited number of tools, but they all play different roles, and I'm going to explain them to you. The first tool is the Figma Move tool and Scale tool. Now, what the tool does is what it says. It's used for moving files around. Let me make an example. Let's assume I create a rectangle, and I want to move this rectangle from left to right. The Move tool enables me to move this from here to here, from here to here, here to here, or any other place I want it to be. The next tool, which is very important, is called the Frame. So the Frame tool is a tool that shows you screens that you're designing for. So assuming you're designing for a mobile, or for a desktop, or for a tablet, the Frame tool gives you that option. When you click on the Frame tool and you go to the right hand side, you will see options such as phone, tablet, desktop, presentation, watch, paper, social media, and the likes. If you click on the phone option, you have a drop down on the different kind of phones that you can design for. If you click on the tablet option, it gives you different tablet options that you can design for. And if you click on the desktop, it gives you different desktop version that you can design for. Let's take, for example, I click on the iPhone 14 Pro. It gives me a screen that fits my design for an iPhone 14 Pro. So whatever I'm going to design for my application has to be inside the frame that has been given to me. Same thing if I'm designing for a desktop. So if I click on frame and then I choose desktop, it's going to create a desktop size frame for me. Whatever I design inside the frame stays inside the frame. The next thing we want to look at is the next tool there, the shape tool. So the shape tool has shape, line, arrows, ellipse, polygon, star, and an option where you can import your image into Figma. However, it is limited because it has limited number of shapes, but you can always work around this whenever you need something else. The next one is the pen tool. So for those that do illustration or want to sketch, which we are going to go into, you can use the pen tool or the pencil tool for sketching inside of Figma. The next one is the text tool. The next tool there is the hand tool. What hand tool does for you is it moves your objects, it pans your object from the left to the right. And then we have the comment tool. Now, comment tool is used when you send your design to people for reviews and they want to make comments. Also, Figma is a tool that helps for collaboration, which means you could have 2 or more people working on the same board at the same time, which is why comment tool is important. So if I want person A to change something, I could just type the email of person A and tell them what to change. Easy, right? Great. Now let's move on to the action bar on the right. Now on the right hand side, you will see 3 options: the design, the prototype, and the inspect. We'll come to the prototype later, but let's focus on the design. On the first part of the design, we'll see the alignments. Aligning to the left, to the center, to the right, top, middle, and bottom alignment. We are going to be exploring these two as we move on this class. Just below that, we have your chosen frame, we have the sizing, and we have option for rotating and edges. And then if you come down, you're going to get the fill. So the right hand side is the property bar where you can modify everything that you have on your Figma board. On the left hand side, we have the layers. So layers talks about everything that you have on your board. That being said, let's move over to the second part of this course, which is sketching and creating low fidelity wireframes. Now we've explored the tools of Figma, we want to go into sketching. Now, as a designer, sketching helps you put down your thoughts before you start designing your product. This is important because when you sketch, it gives you an idea of what you want to design for your customers. Your sketch does not have to be perfect. It's just a rough example of what you want to design. So let's assume we are designing a website for a client. How do we sketch it? Remember we talked about the pencil tool on Figma. You pick the pencil tool, and then on your Figma, you could do a rough sketch to say the logo will be here. And then you have write-ups here, which is a navigation bar, for your website, and then maybe a button here that will be clickable. And then on the hero section, we could have a write-up, and then maybe smaller write-up, and then a section for images, and then another write-up. So when sketching, you don't really have to use words. It's just a graphical representation of how you want your layout to be and how exciting you want your design to be. Now let's talk about wireframing. Wireframing is just like a skeletal picture of what your design should be. Unlike sketching, wireframe use shapes and sketching use freehand. So, with that being said, let's wireframe this sketch that we've done. In that case, we have to create another frame because I don't want to take this out. And then we choose desktop. It's just going to create a new frame right next to the first frame. And then remember I said wireframing has to do with shapes. Now when I click on rectangle, where I have this logo, I could just create a rectangle and then use a text and type logo and move the logo to the rectangle. Now this looks better than the sketch. Now I could as well write another text and name it home, and then write another text and name it about us, and then write another text and name it services. So we are going to stop there. Now you notice every of my texts are scattered, which now brings us to that alignment button. So if I highlight all these text, that means selecting all of them, click on one, hold shift, click on the other, hold shift and click on the other. I can pick center alignments and they will all align at the center. Now we can take this here. Now when you're working with wireframe, it is best to leave your designs in just black, white and gray, because at this point you're not looking at the visual effects, you're not looking at how nice your design is going to be. You're just focused on creating a picture of how your layout is going to be like. And then remember we created a button, so I'm going to go to rectangle and create a button, and then get a text on it and name it button, and then maybe put it in the middle. And yes, now we have a better design from our sketch. Now here we say we are going to put a text, which is our hero section. So I'm just going to copy and paste one of the text here, Ctrl C, Ctrl V if you're using a Windows, and then name it hero section. Now, sorry about that. Now on the right hand panel, like I said, is the properties where you can change the properties of this design. So I can change the regular to bold, and I can change my font size to like 64, right? Then I can move this to where I want it to be, maybe here. And then just under hero section, there's another text. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it, move it just under hero section, and then I change the text to "this is my subtitle," and then change the size to 24, right? Then here we say we want to have an image. I can go to rectangle, create that box, and then get a text, copy and paste, come on the box, or just create a new text and type image. Put it in the center. Now I can also copy this text. I can also copy this text here and write this is an image. So this is what wireframing looks like. It doesn't look nice now, but by the time we start adding visuals to it in our next module, it's going to look very nice. So now you know the difference between a sketch, which is freehand, and wireframe, which is a more detailed description of what a more detailed layout of what your design is going to look like. In the next section, we are going to be talking about interactive prototypes. So before we move to our module 5, we want to talk about interactive prototypes. An interactive prototype for testing is a functional and interactive representation of your digital product user interface that is specifically designed to gather feedback and insights from your users. What it means is, after doing your user research, after getting your feedback, after sketching, doing your wireframe, whatever you arrive at is called a prototype. Your wireframe is a prototype of what your product will become. Now, when you now say an interactive prototype, it means a prototype that the user can interact with. And this is mostly used for user testing. Although we cannot make an interactive prototype right now because we've not designed the product completely. You only have an interactive prototype after you have a finished designed product. And that product is being sent to your specific users that you actually conducted research on. And they will use the product to make sure that it solves their needs. I hope this was well explained. And in the next module, we'll be going to high fidelity and mockups.